Hi YouTube, this is Random, and I have my new CZ Shadow 2. I just picked it up a few days ago and shot it for the first time today. And I wanted to give you my thoughts on it. People that are interested in the gun, I'm sure, have watched a lot of videos regarding the CZ Shadow 2. First things first, let's make sure the gun is safe. I just cleaned it so I know it's empty. Drop the mag. Stick a pinky finger in there. It's clear, nothing in the chamber. So I got this a few days ago, and a lot of people have been raving about this gun. And I must say, after I brought it to the range for the first time, that unlike one particular brand that really fulfilled my expectations, Les Baer 1911s, this one fell a little bit short of what I thought it would be. It shoots well enough. The trigger is smooth, and I had adjusted the over travel screw before I brought it to the range. I just didn't group that well with it as compared to the 1911 when I first shot it. Now, the main reason I think is not really a fault of the gun, but a matter of the fiber optic sights. I wear glasses, and even though I do have some astigmatism, which is slightly corrected, I do see a flare with the fiber optic sights. So what I just did after my first cleaning, after I came back from the range today, is to black them out. That way I have a very sharp black shape as the front sight, rather than a glowing red dot which kind of obscures the outlines of the front blade. Now, I know that this is supposed to be a competition gun. If it's for target acquisition, well and good, but since I don't really compete, I just like the gun for what it is. I black them out. I like to shoot small groups if I can, or to shoot at 25 to 50 yards, typically with handgun. Now with this, like I said, I blacked them out, but overall the gun was pretty good, very smooth. And like I said, this gun is safe. People have already mentioned in other videos that this gun comes with polished rails. I'm not really so sure how much that'll add to it, because all my other CZs weren't really rough in terms of the frame to slide fit. They're not that tight, but they're not gritty or anything like that. But for what it's worth, it's been polished out. It came with the usual things in a box, which is a manual. I was looking for the target paper for this particular gun, but I didn't find it. I'm not sure if it was lost in the gun shop, or if they really did not ship with a target paper, which most CZs would. It also comes with a couple of things. Apart from the 3 magazines it has, it comes with another spare ambidextrous safety, which I'll probably switch out. This was fitted with the flat ambidextrous safety. This one has a shelf, and when I'm shooting my 1911s, I like putting my finger there, and so I'll probably switch this out. I saw a YouTube video on how to do it. It seems fairly simple enough. It comes with spare shock buffers, and it comes with several wrenches, a tiny Allen screw. Let's see this one, a tiny Allen screw for the over travel screw adjustment. This one should be for the set screws for the rear sight, which is drift adjustable only for windage. And it is, of course, elevation adjustable with a screw, slotted screw. You can put in a flat blade screwdriver to turn that, but in order to adjust the windage, you would have to loosen the set screws and drift it out. I'm not sure how tight it'll be. I'm sure you'll probably need a brass punch, and it should be easy enough to do, but it's not as simple as doing windage adjustments with a screw on the side like most other target sights. It also has a torque screw, well, Torx wrench, and that should be for the grips. These come with aluminum grips, and I'm not so sure how much of a variation there is in the color. I can't remember if the first one I saw was this kind of pale blue, but I think the previous one I saw was a little bit darker in color. Either way, both are good, and so for me it still looks good. It comes with a big magazine release that supposedly can adjust in different angles. I'm not messing with it. This seems perfect for me. When I shoot the gun, I have my finger like this, and then as I drop the mag, I typically will slightly loosen my grip, and then it's just perfect for my thumb. Press it and it drops freely. Now, I'm not so sure if this is really meant to be a function in the design or if it's a design flaw, but as with some CZs and even my XDM, when you slam the magazine, sometimes it drops the slide on its own. For me, it's not a big deal, but I sometimes think that a gun should only do what you mean to do. If you need to drop the slide, then use the slide release or slingshot it, but not necessarily when you slam on the magazine. But it did that once today. I fired 200 rounds, probably 40 rounds or so of full metal jacket, 115 grain Federal bulk, as well as my reloads, 147 grain round nose powder coated from SNS casting. And it did not have a malfunction with shooting. Overall, I like this gun, and we'll see how it groups. As I already mentioned, I blacked out the sights with this super black thing, touch-up pen, which I bought in a gun shop before. Actually, I've never used it much in a gun. I've used it more on my bikes in terms of rim strikes, black frame scratches, and that sort of thing. But it's good enough for blacking out the sights. So we'll see how that shoots next time, now that I have a very crisp front blade instead of a red dot that's glowing and obscuring the edges or boundaries of the front sight. So let's see how it shoots. Takedown is fairly typical CZ, although before I shot this, I seem to have a bit of trouble disassembling it. Even though I know how to do it, it seems a little more stiff, and I do think it's somewhat loosened up after shooting it a little bit, or after cleaning. I did clean it somewhat before shooting it, but it was clean enough, so I didn't do much of anything except I greased rails. So drop the magazine. As I mentioned, this gun is empty. So there are two lines over here, which you then line up. Normally in other CZs, the best way to do it would be to put your hammer at half cock, and that should line it up exactly. In this particular gun, if you notice, even as I pull back and the hammer is at half cock, it doesn't line up precisely. And if you force it that way, then you have to exert much more pressure. So what I've just been doing is actually going to fully cocking the hammer, and then it's easier to line it up. Turn it upside down. In the other CZs, you use the base of your magazine, easy enough. Here you have to use the corner in order to push this out, and let's see how easy it is. But before the first real cleaning, which I just did an hour or so ago, and before shooting it up, I could do it, but it's a little bit hard. We'll see how it does right now. So corner, push this button down. We'll see. So once it's depressed, this lifts up. All I have to do is pull it out and then slide it out. Unlike other CZs, you have a cutout on this thing that houses the spring, and guide rod, and here you have a full-length guide rod which protrudes through a hole over there. So you also have the shock buffer. You remove that, and then you can remove this whole thing. As I mentioned, I just cleaned it up. So putting it back, reassembling it, same thing. No big deal, except that you have to make sure that the tip of this recoil guide rod is going to be centered into that hole, and it's easy enough to do. Some people say, oh, it's hard to do, or you have to take care. It's not a big deal. So line it up, and as you're doing so, you can see that it's right there. Push in a little bit more and center that thing. It's there. Line it up, and these rails have been greased. In the summer I use grease. In the winter, since I do shoot in the winter also, I'm in New Mexico and it's not really winter compared to northern states, I use oil. But when it's hot anyway, I use grease, which I think works better in CZs as well as SIGs with their rails. For my 1911s, I also use grease. For my XDM and the CZP10, I just use some oil. So you line it up. Even without looking that this is a line, you can actually see that there is a cutout there that is centered when the notches are aligned. So you slide it in. As you can see, it slides in, and just push it in. Function check, and drop the hammer.